Plus, Florida is bracing for a rare tropical storm.
And in sports, a live look into the Ohio vs. Miami game. Newswatch starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Madison Moore.
And I'm Reese Thompson. Welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting southeastern Ohio. Election day in Athens, Ohio has officially arrived, and one Athens County Commissioner seat is up for grabs.
Longtime Athens County Commissioner, Democratic candidate Lenny Eliason is being challenged by Republican candidate Alex Bircher and Independent candidate Bill Hayes. Lenny Eliason has been an Athens County Commissioner since 1998, and this year, win or lose, will be his last time running. If reelected, he plans to continue diversifying the economy and expanding tourism to the county. He says, the idea is that if you can improve the recreational economy, looking at the Hocking Hills as a model, so we continue to do things that will try to bring more tourists to the area, allow for more entrepreneurs to open up small businesses like a bed and breakfast and things like that. Many residents of Athens County do not have affordable access to broadband internet, and it has been a strong topic among the candidates. If elected, Eliason and Hayes want to continue broadband expansion efforts, but 25-year-old Nelsonville native Alex Bircher says he won't expand broadband until he knows there's a way for people to afford it. He says, I think getting hooked up right now without having some kind of program in place to help people pay for it is kind of disgusting, because now you're dangling something in front of someone's face and they can't afford it. The Ohio general election polls close tonight at 7:30. While in the voting booth today, Ohioans will have to decide on two state issues that could change the state's constitution.
Newswatch reporter Jessica Stelzer looks into the first of these two issues.
State Issue 1 is the Community Safety Amendment.
State Issue 1 is to amend the Ohio Constitution to mandate that judges consider public safety when setting the amount of bail in any particular criminal case.
Issue 1 is a response to an Ohio Supreme Court ruling requiring the bail amount to be only as much as necessary for someone to come back to court.
Or a byproduct of what happened in the DuBose case, where the legislature says, look, we don't think the Ohio Supreme Court is best equipped to handle those kind of decisions.
Bail reform advocates celebrated the decision. They say unaffordable bail amounts penalize the poor, often causing more economic harm that keeps them in a cycle of poverty.
A lot of times you have disadvantaged people that aren't going to be able to make bail. They're barely making ends meet as it is. Mm-hmm. So they may lose employment, even being in jail just a week or 2 weeks. And then they're not going to be able to provide for their families. Then their kids are going to suffer.
The Athens County League of Women Voters held an informative forum last month, but supporters of Issue 1 argue the Supreme Court ruling prevents judges from using discretion in setting bail. And Issue 1 allows judges to evaluate cases based on their unique circumstances.
We're giving discretion back to judges. They're in the best position with input from the prosecutor, from the defense counsel, from the victim, to assess the situation.
Opponents of Issue 1 argue it isn't needed, that the Supreme Court ruling doesn't prevent judicial discretion, and judges have other tools to ensure public safety.
Public safety does have a part to play in the current system. So there are more conditions than just money.
For more information about State Issue 1 and to see the whole forum, go to the League of Women Voters of Athens County Facebook page. For Newswatch, I'm Jessica Stelzer.
Some Ohio counties have used alternative conditions to bring defendants coming back to trial and to keep the public safe, including Athens County Municipal Court, which invested in new ankle monitors this summer so defendants wouldn't have to await trial from prison. The nearly month-long period of early in-person voting and mail-in voting is over in Ohio, but you can still vote at the polls today. The 88 county early voting centers closed at 2 p.m. yesterday, so election officials can prepare for Election Day today. This year's early voting totals surpassed the record set for a midterm election. Polls in Ohio and West Virginia are open until 7:30 tonight, so there is still time to vote. Polls closed at 6 p.m. in Kentucky. If you're not sure where your polling place is, Ohio residents can visit ohiosos.gov, where you'll find an interactive map broken down by county. Simply click on your county to then look up your polling location by address. West Virginia voters can visit apps.wv.gov.
And good afternoon. I'm your lead forecaster, Erin Ashley, with your forecast for today. Happy Election Day. We're looking at mostly sunny skies today. It's been a beautiful day. Nothing really too eventful happening, so I hope you've enjoyed your day outside. Looking at very nice fall temperatures that we like to see in the low 60s, maybe to upper 50s, especially if you're in the northern counties in our area. And that low temperature is going to get a little chilly in the mid to upper 30s for the majority of our area tonight. Make sure you grab a jacket as you head out the door tonight. But right now, looking across the region, temperatures are, as that sun sets, to expect those temperatures to really start to drop into the mid to upper 50s for the majority of our region. But if we look at our interactive radar, we are under what is called a red flag warning, and that's indicated right here by this blue. I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit, and we will go ahead and talk a little bit about this. As you can see right here, I'll go ahead and turn on some pressure centers and some fronts for you, but we had some dry air move in overnight last night, and this in combination with heavy winds, dry air, it's really not going to be good if you are out tonight and you are celebrating or you're going ahead and hang out with friends, because that fire is going to be a hazard. I will talk a little bit about this in my full forecast, but for now, I'll send it back to the desk.
Thanks, Erin. While Ohio elections capture most of our attention, important races are occurring around the nation. Newswatch reporter Claire Chiopita is in Washington, D.C. with a special look at elections outside of Ohio.
Thanks, guys. The Ohio Senate and the Ohio governor's race are going to be at the top of residents' minds as they cast their ballots today. But there are races to watch around the country with high stakes for the Democratic and Republican parties. Ohioans might want to take a closer look at these three elections as they head to the polls. Democrats and Republicans are fighting for control over the Senate, and the races in Pennsylvania and Arizona will be key to that win.
Pennsylvania shares many of the same issues that we do here in Ohio.
John Fetterman is the incumbent lieutenant governor of PA and seemed to be the clear ringer for Democrats at the start of the season. Competitor Dr. Mehmet Oz, better known for his television career, seemed to only strengthen Fetterman's odds. But a stroke affected Fetterman's health and has become a target for Republican attack, allowing Oz to take the lead.
Now that lead is still well within the margin of error, so it is very much a coin toss as to who would win Pennsylvania.
On the other side of the U.S. is the Senate race between incumbent Mark Kelly and Blake Masters in Arizona.
Anytime an incumbent is seriously threatened, in particular in the Senate, it really is an eye-opener, because historically these individuals don't lose.
Over in Florida, the race for governor is between incumbent Ron DeSantis and Charlie Crist.
The conventional wisdom or belief is that perhaps Florida, somewhat like Ohio at the presidential level, has shifted from being a swing state to more Republican than it has in the past.
DeSantis is a figure to watch for 2024 nonetheless.
DeSantis is viewed by many, I think, within the Republican Party and outside of the Republican Party, as being a potential nominee of the Republican Party in 2024.
These elections may not see finalized results until tomorrow, so Ohioans will have to keep an eye out for these head-turning elections. In Washington, D.C., I'm Claire Chiopita.
Voters will get the final word today in reshaping the political landscape both in their home states and in Washington. Officials expect a high turnout with a record number of 45 million ballots already cast pre-election. Isabel Rosales is in Capitol Hill with what's at stake.
Voters making their voices heard by the tens of millions. Polls nearing their final hours across the country. Top of mind?
The economy is definitely a big one.
What's really important to me is basic human rights and how our government is protecting them.
Candidates themselves hitting the polls and greeting voters. The stakes couldn't be higher for both parties.
Whenever you look at the Senate, I agree it's going to be close. Everybody has to get out and vote and participate this election cycle because of the importance of it.
My goodness, 2022 is perhaps the most important election of our lifetimes.
Republicans just 5 seats away from a House majority. And it may come down to a handful of battleground states to decide the future of the Senate. The GOP just 1 seat away from flipping control. And the potential next House Speaker already laying out next steps.
I think the first thing you'll see is a bill to control the border. First thing we're going to do is make sure an economy that's strong.
Looming in the background, contentious court fights with more than 100 lawsuits filed pre-election. many in battleground states. In Washington, I'm Isabel Rosales.
Coming up after the break, how Nelsonville residents can schedule curbside pickup for fallen leaves. Plus, new information on the Wayne County brush fire. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
14 Gridiron Glory teams remain in the playoffs, and we're covering every last one of them. On Friday, action from Divisions 3 and 5 for Jackson, Sheridan, and more. We preview the Saturday showdowns in Divisions 6 and 7, including Nelsonville, York, and Waterford. And don't forget, voting for Player of the Year is live at woub.org/gridiron. We'll take a closer look at all 5 candidates Friday night at 11:30, but until then, remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Deep in Texas, there is a very elusive and endangered cat population.
The ocelot's range within Texas has been shrinking because of a number of human-related factors. The efforts for ocelot conservation, I feel, have been in vain. Time is not a friend of ours.
I hope you can see that. We got the ocelot kittens. Oh my God.
Every kitten is precious.
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB.
WOUB is recognizing members of our Cornerstone Society. The Cornerstone Society is a group that wants to ensure the future of public media in our region. It includes people across our area who value news, entertainment, and cultural programming, as well as the educational services WOUB provides. Also included are graduates of Ohio University who took part in the WOUB Student Professional Development Program. Thanks to the Cornerstone Society for their generous support. To learn how you can be involved, email woub@woub.org.
Control of Congress hanging in the balance. President Biden taking on the Trump wing.
Extreme MAGA Republicans full of anger, violence, hate, and division.
Republicans counting on support from the former president.
You're going to send J.D. Vance to the U.S. Senate.
Consequential state races. Election night 2022, Tuesday, November 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern.
With the fall season well underway, the City of Nelsonville Street Department has started a curbside leaf program. Curbside pickups began yesterday and will continue every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday until December 16th. Leaf pickups will depend on weather conditions. The city is asking Nelsonville residents to rake leaves curbside and to leave out branches, sticks, grass clippings, and tall grass. When leaves are curbside and ready, residents can schedule curbside leaf pickup by texting HI to 740-265-3858 or call 740-753-1314. A brush fire in Wayne County has opened up an arson investigation. The fire was first reported Saturday morning and is estimated to have burned roughly 500 acres of land. First responders dealt with windy and dry conditions while trying to contain the fire. The West Virginia Division of Forestry is investigating the fire. A new initiative is giving Kentucky inmates opportunities as they enter into the workforce. Governor Andy Beshear is promoting a prison-to-work strategy to help inmates have jobs lined up before they leave custody. The program will match inmates with Kentucky businesses in need of workers by allowing employers to virtually interview prisoners. Inmates will also receive help writing resumes and preparing for interviews with prospective employers. Governor Beshear's administration is teaming with the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce to promote the initiative. It will be offered at all 13 state prisons and 19 local jails that house state inmates. That story's still ahead.
And if we look out towards the Atlantic coast, we are seeing Tropical Storm Nicole. I will talk about in my full forecast how Tropical Storm Nicole will affect our area. But meanwhile, check us out on social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.
Control of Congress hanging in the balance. President Biden taking on the Trump wing.
Extreme MAGA Republicans full of anger, violence, hate, and division.
Republicans counting on support from the former president.
You're going to send J.D. Vance to the U.S. Senate.
Consequential state races. Election Night 2022, Tuesday, November 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern.
They got so much mud here, it's the first time I ever saw the ground put in for a transfer.
For the men and women of the armed forces, the USO has provided a powerful connection to life back home.
They're putting on shows for people whose lives are on the line.
And it's a moving experience for everyone involved.
It becomes very real to you.
Building morale where it's needed most.
To see troops laugh in a combat zone is pretty remarkable.
On USO for the troops.
Friday at 9 on WOUB.
14 Gridiron Glory teams remain in the playoffs, and we're covering every last one of them. On Friday, action from Divisions 3 and 5 for Jackson, Sheridan, and more. We preview the Saturday showdowns in Divisions 6 and 7, including Nelsonville, York, and Waterford. And don't forget, voting for Player of the Year is live at woub.org/gridiron. We'll take a closer look at all 5 candidates Friday night at 11:30, but until then, remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
From Nashville, Tennessee's historic War Memorial Auditorium, celebrate songs of America's returning war veterans, co-written with top hit songwriters. Join forces with veterans in collaborative songs, born of hard truths that inspire and present the power of music to change lives. Stories from the front lines in lyric and melody, songwriting with soldiers.
Friday at 10 on WOUB.
Welcome back to Newswatch. I hope you've enjoyed your wonderful day today. We saw mostly sunny skies, like I mentioned before, and temperatures in the mid to low 60s. And that low won't be getting too brisk tonight. We're nearing the freezing point, but overall, make sure you grab maybe a light jacket. We will see some heavy winds tonight later on, but that is expected to be pretty nice as we head throughout the night tonight. We're still looking at mostly clear skies. Expect high pressure to really dominate over the next couple of days, allowing conditions to dry up and make things feel a little bit warmer for us here in Athens. But the dry conditions may or may not be a good thing. Like I mentioned earlier, we are under a red flag warning. A red flag warning means that here in Athens, we are having conditions that are favorable for fire spreading. So if you were to light a fire outside, conditions are very favorable for that fire to spread. Such conditions include dry air as well as high winds. So if I go ahead and pull up what is causing that, we'll go ahead and pull up some winds, show you what's really happening here in Athens. We got some winds coming from the north, heading down into our area. And so all that wind in combination with dry air that I'll go ahead and pull up as well is really going to, it's going to show that we have dry air, we got heavy winds. If that is why we are under that red flag warning heading throughout the night tonight and into tomorrow. So make sure that we're playing it safe tonight, making sure that everything is absolutely beautiful. And so we are going to go ahead and move on to how tomorrow is going to look. We're looking at temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. That's because of that high pressure system that I mentioned a little bit earlier. Mostly sunny skies, again, because high pressure will cause all those clouds to go away for the most part, allowing for that overnight low to kind of creep up a little bit into the low 40s, 41 degrees here in Athens tomorrow. And if we go ahead and look at tomorrow night, there's that dry line. Dry line really indicates that we have dry air that had just pushed down into our area. That is what's causing that red flag warning that we will see tonight. Now, another thing I really want to mention is something that's brewing out here towards the west. We got a cold front stemming from this low pressure system that is just sitting up here in the north, but this cold front is going to bring moisture into our area heading throughout the rest of the week. And that is going to start to become a concern as early as Friday. But another thing I really want to really drive home is this system right down here. We got Tropical Storm Nicole down here in the south. So if we go ahead and show you right down there, Tropical Storm Nicole, it will go ahead, head towards the west, hit the eastern side of Florida. It is looking like it will intensify into a Category 1 hurricane by the time it hits the eastern coast. It'll go ahead and head up, go up towards us here in the southeastern Ohio region. But if we go ahead and move on to what the rest of the weekend is going to look like, that chance for showers will appear on Friday. But that cold front is going to hit us later in the day. The remnants of the hurricane will go ahead and hit us earlier in the day. The main strong thing we're going to see is Friday night, Showers are going to hit. If you are heading out the night on Friday, even into early Saturday, expect for those temperatures to get really nice and cold, below freezing, and it will even drop further later on Saturday. I'll talk about it more in my final forecast to give you a little reminder of what the rest of the week will look like. But for now, I'll go ahead and throw it back to the desk to talk a little bit more about this special tropical storm.
Thank you, Erin. Yes, a rare late season storm, the kind not seen in decades, is on the verge of hitting Florida, where many are still struggling to recover from Hurricane Ian. Right now, Tropical Storm Nicole is forecast to strengthen before making landfall along Florida's east coast late Wednesday into Thursday. Mike Valerio has the latest.
Florida is bracing for a destructive deja vu. Tropical Storm Nicole is expected to intensify into a Category 1 hurricane, a mere 6 weeks after deadly Hurricane Ian hit Central Florida. Thousands who survived Ian are once again being urged to stock up on supplies and get ready to hunker down.
Today is the day to get ready. Make sure you have your preparedness kit, your disaster supplies ready, food and water. Make sure your gas tank is full. Make sure you have medicine and prescriptions, cash on hand.
Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis has declared a state of emergency in 34 counties, all potentially in the path of Nicole. Emergency officials are warning of heavy winds and rain, rip currents, beach erosion, possible flooding, and storm surges.
Storm surge on top of a full moon, on top of high tides. Storm surge amount of 2 to 4 feet, and it could be 5 feet in certain locations.
Power companies are also preparing, removing or cutting tree limbs already damaged by Ian. Officials reportedly say the branches often are the biggest source of outages. Nicole is arriving in the final weeks of the hurricane season. If the system develops into a Category 1 storm, it could be the first November hurricane to hit the U.S. in 37 years. I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
Local Florida residents shopping at Costco on North Lake Boulevard are not too concerned about Storm Nicole. Costco shoppers say they are doing their normal shopping and not stocking up on supplies, but some items are low on stock.
Coming up in sports, a live look at the Ohio game that's going on right now, and then the men's basketball game that happened last night. All that and more after the break.
Deep in Texas, there is a very elusive and endangered cat population.
The ocelot's range within Texas has been shrinking because of a number of human-related factors. The efforts for ocelot conservation, I feel, have been in vain. Time is not a friend of ours.
I hope you can see that. We got the ocelot kittens. Oh my God.
Every kitten is precious.
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB.
From Nashville, Tennessee's historic War Memorial Auditorium, celebrate songs of America's returning war veterans, co-written with top hit songwriters. Join forces with veterans in collaborative songs, born of hard truths that inspire and present the power of music to change lives. Stories from the front lines in lyric and melody, songwriting with soldiers.
Friday at 10 on WOUB.
They got so much mud here, it's the first time I ever saw the ground put in for a transfer.
For the men and women of the armed forces, the USO has provided a powerful connection to life back home.
They're putting on shows for people whose lives are on the line.
And it's a moving experience for everyone involved.
It becomes very real to you.
Building morale where it's needed most.
To see troops laugh in the combat zone is pretty remarkable.
On USO for the troops.
Friday at 9 on WOUB.
Control of Congress hanging in the balance. President Biden taking on the Trump wing.
Extreme MAGA Republicans full of anger, violence, hate, and division.
Republicans counting on support from the former president.
You're going to send J.D. Vance to the U.S. Senate.
Consequential state races. Election night 2022, Tuesday, November 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Ohio football is set to continue midweek action gameplay tonight as they make a visit to their rival, the Miami Redhawks.
To tell us more about it, we welcome reporter Maria Manessi live from Augsburg. Maria, there has been a lot of excitement surrounding Ohio football, and I'm sure this rivalry game makes it that much more special.
Absolutely, Reese. We're about 45 minutes away from kickoff, and you can see the Bobcats preparing right behind me for this important matchup. For the Bobcats, their only home victory came to the Redhawks 35-33 in a close one last season. But tonight's matchup is even more important. Head coach Tim Albin says playing in this atmosphere is beneficial.
It's really good to get to be in this atmosphere. All right, it really it's going to be very, very beneficial. I think there's some things early on, a little huffing and puffing. The anxiety's up, you know, and we're going to be in a week's time in the same bigger atmosphere.
Last week's 45-24 victory over the Buffalo Bulls was a statement win for the Bobcats, who control their own destiny in the MAC East. Don't be surprised to see quarterback Curtis Work looking for his receivers early and often. Wide receiver Sam Wigloose is one of Rourke's main guys, as he had 131 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. On the defensive side, players like Key Thompson and Bryce Houston will look to pressure the Red Hawk offense and make them uncomfortable. The Bobcats must play at their best on all 3 cylinders of the ball all night if they want to come out on top in this one. To stay up to date with this edition of the Battle of Bricks, follow along at Bobcat Showcase on Twitter and for post-game content at woub.org/sports. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Maria. It will be exciting to see how this one plays out. Now over to Haley in studio for more on Ohio sports.
Thanks, guys, and good evening. The Ohio men's basketball team played their first game at Belmont yesterday. The Bobcats and the Bruins were close all game long, but it was Ohio that fell short in the end. Ohio was down 7 at the half and then 12 after a Belmont run to start the third. They were able to cut down on the deficit in the fourth quarter and get within 3 points. It all came down to the last 2 seconds. But with the Bobcats down 1, the Bruins hit a buzzer beater 3 to win the game 70-69. Ohio shot 43% from the field, 45% from the 3, and were 8 for 9 from the line. Belmont shot 49.1% from the field, 28% from the 3, and were 7 for 13 from the line. The Bobcats were able to beat the Bruins behind the arc, but lost in the paint. The Bobcats will play their next game at home against Cleveland State on November 12th. Switching gears to women's basketball, they also played last night. Ohio started their season off against the Long Island Sharks at the Combo. The Bobcats fell behind early, losing the first quarter to the Sharks by 7. They were able to get back in the second by outscoring Long Island by 5 points. Coach Bob Bolden says he was proud of his team for sticking it out.
Played a college basketball game that hadn't played a college basketball game in a long time, and they got that done today, and they stuck with it.
Bobcats are going to be at Longwood for their next game, and that's going to be Thursday, and tip-off is scheduled for 7 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Haley. And now we're going to toss it over to Aaron for final weather.
Thank you so much, Madison. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be mostly sunny. We're looking at very dry conditions, and that's why we're seeing that red flag warning. As you can see, it's indicated by the pink on your screen. Make sure we're playing it safe tonight and into tomorrow. Moving on Friday, we have systems moving in from the west as well as the east, with that tropical storm really wreaking havoc. And here's a final look at your week ahead.
And thanks so much for watching tonight. I'm Madison Moore.
And I'm Reese Thompson. Thanks for talking with us tonight.
Make sure to tune in tonight for the ballot election special at 11 p.m.
Support comes from Visit Athens County. More information can be found at AthensOhio.com. Athens, it's more than a place. Support comes from Snyder Strode Jarrett Financial in Athens, providing investment and retirement planning assistance to Southeast Ohio for over 50 years. Snyder Strode Jarrett,